Mark, game coming up at weekend. I want to address kind of the elephant in the room with the transfer window at the moment. All the talk has been, and I know you mentioned it on Tuesday about Sorba Thomas, but what can you tell us about that situation at the moment with regards to any interest?
There is no situation. There's nothing. He's our player, and we get on with it. There's nothing until somebody tells me otherwise. Then he's our player. He's and has done really well and continues to do so. So we get on with it until, like I say, if something happened, then I'll let you know, or you'll be told, or whatever. But apart from that, we're just getting on with the preparation for the game, and there's no reason for anything else to become a distraction.
I know it's the same for everybody. The transfer window next week, well, certainly in the EFL. What's your thoughts on it, given that you have 2 games in 4 days, which isn't unusual in football season, but to have the transfer window going on around that at the same time, how does your weekend look this weekend as opposed to it would on a normal sort of weekend?
Just normal weekend. The work goes on behind the scenes, so that gets done by other people. So, like I've said before, my remit is to make sure the team's prepared, pick the team that we've got available, players we've got available, and get on with that. So that's a good thing, I think.
Do you anticipate to be busy over the next few days?
I will definitely be busy over the next few days because we've got the games, as you said. So my focus is purely on that. I know what we need to do. It's whether we can do it or not, and I know people are working hard behind the scenes. So. We'll see, but I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 things thrown up over the next few days. So, we'll deal with those things as and when, and hopefully we can see some new faces. We need new faces as well. We need some reinforcements. 1 or 2 need to go and play some football and find a home. So maybe that happens. I don't know, but let's see. Let's wait and see.
I'm sure you'll be glad when it's all closed and you can just get on with things, like focus and just playing football.
Honestly, they allow me to do that. The other people do that stuff. They do all the legwork. They'll come to me and sort of tell me when they need to tell me things, I think. So that's generally what happens, and it allows me to focus on the important things, because nothing else matters until it does.
Wolves at the weekend then, early kick-off. How's the reaction been from the midweek game, and what have you learned about the squad in the 3 games up to this weekend?
The first game was disappointing, in terms of the overall thing. We didn't play well enough, we didn't create enough, but you look at the first game and you're trying to settle into something where you're a little bit undercooked, and that you're progressively going to get stronger and fitter and all of those things throughout the time. But and I thought we did. Obviously, we did enough to get our noses in front, but from that point on, we conceded 2 poor goals in the game. So parking that game, because it was done and dusted, we went into the Southampton game having some slightly different options, and whilst again that we're going to get better and better, I thought it was a really much improved performance, and we played some decent stuff at that point, against the side that are going to be and are well fancied to be up there, and will probably be up there again. They've got good players, good squad depth. They're looking to move players out, I'm sure, and that's a situation that we need to get to. So the game the other night against Hull, we made changes. They made 11. We made 7, and we had another pretty decent performance. To a point, and then we go into this game this weekend, and everybody's energised. Everybody knows where we're at the moment, but quite positive and optimistic about where we're at and what we can do. And I think as a group we have got a nucleus of a really strong 11, plus some players that have been out injured or whether to come back in. Just need that little bit extra to give us that depth that we desperately need to maintain performance levels and improve performance levels and have competition for places in all those key areas. And from that point we can really get to work and with a group that can help us not just now but obviously medium and longer term.
I was going to say that, and you just said it there about the players. We spoke to a few players over the last few weeks, and they've all kind of said that performances have been good, results will come. They believe in what's going on. How good does that feel from your perspective as a manager as well? That the players buy into it and can see the progress and the development and where the team's heading.
I think that's hugely important that they're. Say they're on board with things. We do things for them. We do things that make sense for them and their profiles, and so it should ultimately. But they've got to make and bring it to life. They've got to bring that to life, and the sessions that they're doing and the work that they're doing, and the work they're putting in, they're starting to gradually get it and get to where we need to get to. Levels of training, the quality in training, and not sort of coming in and coasting on any day, on any given day, and being able to do that means that you can train, and you can train at a constant level, and you're going to improve over time. And that's the only way you can do it. If you come in and coast and you think that you know best, it's just not going to work. You've got individuals, you've got individual abilities that you try and hopefully bring that out of people by playing them in the right positions and the right giving them the right tools. Good information for them, and then it's whether they can take it on board or whether they want to take it on board. That'll determine whether they remain with us in the longer term. So, we have to do that. We have to do that. We have to lay down those goals. That intent, because eventually that will be what happens, and we'll turn a corner and we'll start to really attack a really tough division.
You've been dealt a tough start, haven't you, with the fixtures that you've had, but you've got to play them at some point, I guess. But you take the positives of what the players, and even the newer players as well that are coming in, and those that maybe not got as much experience can see the level of what you need to be at for the whole season. Yeah,
100%. The level, you've seen the level change. It's gone up this year, so we have to do that, and we've got to improve anyway. So we've got maybe a bigger gap to bridge. So, those are things you've got to consider. And when I'm sort of looking at performances and really encouraged by some of those signs, we just keep going and keep making sure that we are playing and performing how I want us to perform, both in training and then into the matches.
You said about George Hurst, just looking forward for him getting his first goal to settle his nerves a little bit. Can you spread that wider to the team to say looking for them to get their first 3 points, and that kind of just eases a few things?
Yeah, but it will come as long as you're doing those things, and that's not a pressure that I want to add. Everybody knows that. We know where we need to be. We've spoken about that. We've spoken about targets and goals, and we've still yet to pick up the first points of the season, but we will do, and that won't be too far away. And if we can do that this weekend, then it'll be a huge start for us. So it gets us sort of roundabout back on track. But like I say, it's early doors.
It's a great game, isn't it? A great occasion, just down the road. Just probably the shortest away trip that you can have this season at an ex-Premier League team. But a great occasion.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and a brilliant place to go and play. They're a good side. You can see they're really well coached, but they've got some top players in there. I mean, we've watched a lot of them in the World Cup, so it's a great game for us to go and play.
What do you expect from them? I know you talked about those top players, but what can you kind of gauge enough about them early on from what you've seen in the Championship so far? A different team, obviously, coming down from the Premier League, different level.
Yeah, honestly, we've just done an hour and a half with them this morning, but we've looked at that over time. But I think they're a good team. I watched the first game against Blackburn Rovers, and they've got pace, they've got power, they've got quality, and they'll do things that Premier League players can do. So that, there's no getting away from that. They've got some Premier League quality in their team. And that in itself is a challenge, but they're good to watch, and they've got some threats. Where that comes from, it can come from anywhere, to be honest. But we've looked at that, and we'll have a way of performing on Saturday, and hopefully early kick-off as well. We've got to make sure that we're ready for that, and we will be.
And in terms of the injury situation, Ben Pearson, etc., how are you looking?
A bit early this morning because we were off yesterday. Some of those players have been in to get assessed. What I've seen this morning is that we look okay. We look, very close to almost everybody back, and certainly they're back on the grass and training with us. So I think there's only Aaron Creswell who's a way away from being available, but the rest of them are not too far away now.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Pete?
Hi, Mark. When you talk about seeing signs of encouragement, and you know that there's a big gap that you've got to bridge, how plausible is it to bridge that this summer, I guess, over the next few days with people you bring in and the work you do on the training ground?
Well, honestly, that remains to be seen, but I think, we will try and do that as much as we possibly can. And when I say we've got to bridge a gap, and then it's a gap, and then obviously you're playing catch up anyway. You're trying to close gaps, but then there's an improvement in others. So naturally you've got to. But to be fair, we could do that. We need to be really strong in terms of what we do in the market, in and out, and we need to double down on what we're doing on the training ground. So we will do, I'm sure, both of those things, and let's see where the cards fall. But I think say there are some promising signs and looking a little bit more like we're going to look. So, and we will get better over the season as the season progresses.
There must be points like for the first hour against Southampton and watching, you think I'll break in midweek, where you think I can really see what we're starting to get towards now. Yeah,
100%. And look, the game the other day it's a difficult one when you've got to use a game and games to make sure that people don't fall down, and whilst getting game time into them to get them up to where they need to be naturally, fitness level wise. Obviously then it affects performances in a positive way, so it's difficult to do that, and you're looking at, right, that's a plan for this one, that's a plan for that one, I've got 5 substitutes to make, and whilst I'm doing that I've got to try and balance that with, can we go and win the game, which is what we tried to do the other day and just came up short. But I thought even against Hull we were, there was still some decent signs, and I thought that, just take the goal for instance. The goal was a really well worked goal, brilliant ball in, great movement, great header, good finish, and not only that, we're getting into some really decent positions. There's some, again, decision making on the ball can be better, which will give us so much more in terms of outputs. Goal opportunities, whether we take them or not, then it's down to them. But to move that ball, to see some of the movements earlier, man on the ball's got to see that and move it quickly and then attack space. You've got to do all of those things, which is what you'll see from Wolves, which is why Wolves are one of the fancied teams, because they make those decisions better more often than some of the other teams, including ourselves, to be fair, at this moment in time. And that's the difference. But we'll try and get there, and we'll try and bridge that gap as quickly as we can. And to answer your question, hopefully we can do some more business in the next week.
I'm guessing that the players you've brought in will help elevate the standard in training as well, raise the bar in training. So perhaps the players like Lawrence Gianni coming into the first team will realise the decisions that he has to make as he develops.
I think, I think that's true of everybody though. You know, decision making, movements, recognising space, recognising where your teammates are. You know, that all of these things as you go up the ladder, as you go up. Players see that naturally, and it's not something that you've got to maybe necessarily think about. But I think that's the case in a lot of championship players and why the players are in the championship. But if you can get over that, you've become a really good championship player. Whether you're a top championship player, you can work towards, and that means that the Premier League sides start to look at you, or your team starts to progress quickly. That's where we need to get to.
So you want us to keep asking about more players like we've been asking about Sorba Thomas over the last few days?
Yeah, I think with Sorba, I think he can be, he can be a role model for people and how to go about your business. Really, I mean, in terms of out of possession, he's probably the best that there is outside of the top flight. I think in possession he does some incredible things, and his goal contributions, whether that's him scoring or assisting, is really high. So you know, there is. I mean, we love him. We think he's fantastic, but I'm not surprised there's interest.
And last one, what is your plan for Lawrence Gianni now? Does he need regular game time this season?
Honestly, it really bugs me when people talk about it. He's had one game, and he's played because we've got nobody else to play. Yeah, and that's not being disrespectful. He's got himself in there a little bit earlier than maybe normally, and we can't look at him and go, oh, now we've got another one. It's really tough for him, but I really enjoyed watching him the other night. I thought he did really well. I thought he acquitted himself really well. What you said initially was right, because you've got to recognise the change in level, and that the other night isn't the level. It goes up again. So you've got to look at he's got to look at that, recognise that, and how he can cope with his playing style and the way he plays the game and sees the game. But one thing's for sure: if he plays and he gets in, you can't fail but learn. He's a really conscientious young man, and I think he's somebody who is really serious about improvement, and that's credit to the academy guys. You know, it really is. I think academies get a bad rap at times because there aren't enough players coming through, but that's people like myself who look and think, right, we need to get results. We've got to get results, so they're not quite good enough, and that's too easily bandied around, which is why there's so many people that fail in the academy system. So I've got a track record of giving youngsters opportunity, and you're right that there's a time where you've got to give them the head. You've got to put them in. And like I said, I refer to my first statement, and it wasn't derogatory. It was not meant to be a derisory comment. It just highlights where we're light in that area. But again, brilliant opportunity for him the other day, and who knows if hopefully that's ignited and lit a fire under him that makes him really go and try and grab the initiative.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark, the league normally settles down after about 8 to 10 games, but given where Stoke are at the moment, and obviously 3 points will help with the momentum, are you happy enough with how the squad has improved when you're doing the work off the pitch, or on the training pitch?
I'm happy where we're at with the players we've brought in. Some of them more than others, but that's normal. I think that things will settle down. You're right, but maybe it's more than certainly more than 8 games. It might be 10, 12 games. But again, you're looking at a 3-week break in between, so that'll change. It's almost like starting again. You need another sort of mini pre-season week before you go back into it, or 2 weeks. So I think things are looking better. We 100% have got a better base in terms of a squad than we've had since I've been here. But it's nowhere near finished. It's nowhere near finished, and that's difficult because it's blooming expensive. But we've got to ensure that we get the best out of them. I'm saying last season we had too many injuries. This stage we've still got players that we don't need out, that are working the way back, and hopefully that point now we can get them back, because we need the squad. You can see that in terms of what we have, looks really strong. At the level, we'll get better. 100% will get better, but we get better with those others that can come in and supplement and come in and make sure that they can do the same job and they can fight for the place. And that's when you're in a really good situation. And you look at other squads, which is normal and natural because you're doing that on a weekly basis, and not necessarily Wolves, because Wolves have been in the Premier League for a long time and they've dropped out, but their squad is very, very strong. They've got players that they can bring in and out, and over this Championship season, obviously your games are just being churned out, and everybody's got to be ready to go every 3 days or so. You need that more than ever.
You look at the players that have come in, they must give you an extra energy, and the players an extra energy when you're training in the week.
Yeah, I think energy is something that you're looking for from everybody, and I think that's generally. I mean, it's great because you get out on the grass and things are, you're free. It's what you want to do. It's where you want to be. All the other bits and pieces around it are just components of trying to build the information for them in a best way that's going to suit them. And I think I think the energy around the place is good. You've already mentioned about speaking to the players and where they're at and what they're thinking, which is great. But we're honest with them, so we're not sort of flanneling them or giving them information or telling them how good they are when they're not. There is a basis of a really, really strong group there. So yeah, I'm looking for more. I'm looking to drive those standards, and it's when it comes from within. It's when they drive the standards, and it's when they understand what the levels are that are required, and not just coming in and accepting that this is a brilliant place to come and be every day. This is on the back of what the owner had said about not wanting to just build a nice facility and being remembered for that. We want to really achieve something and make sure that we're a real force in this division, and that's been really difficult to do. This is a moment where we're starting to make those inroads. And you're right, it might take a little while, but it's the start of something. We've got a lot happier with the things that happen in the players that are coming in.
We all know that Stoke haven't achieved greatly since they've come out of the Premier League, but people tend to forget you personally have not been here so long.
Thank you. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they just tie you with that brush. 100%. I think they can do, and it's sort of like you're lumped in with the rest of what's happened in their minds, and that's difficult because that's not the case. And we've had really our hands tied for a long time. This is the first time we've been able to get out of that, and I think that the work you can see, or certainly I can see starting, is going to take us in the right direction. It's just going to take a while. It will take a while. There's no doubt. You can't, and we are trying to deliver all the time in the first window, really, because this is the first window we've been able to go right. We can now really start to look at the quality, but everybody's got to be in line. Everybody, and this is going to take time because there's not everybody going to come on this journey. They're going to come to a certain stage, and then they're going to have to go and find somewhere else to play, or they change mindsets. They're not closed off. They're open to doing what we need them to do within their capability, by the way, not something that by the way, I'm asking you to do something you can't. Just listen, learn, go and deliver, and come on this journey, because it's a roller coaster, but it's going to be, eventually it'll be successful.
But given that you've not been here that long, and the progress Stoke have made, whilst I'm sure you'd always expect and hope it to be better, are you comfortable with where the team are at the moment?
Well, I'm not comfortable because we've not picked a point up yet, but I'm happier with what I'm seeing. I can say that. I can say that with total honesty. I think there have been some really good signs, but we've not had that performance yet where I go, right, that's it. That's it. There's parts of performances, certainly the Southampton performance, there's parts of it that are great. And I thought we were really in that game, and I thought we took part in that game, whereas we didn't last season. That's what I was saying. But we picked 3 points up last season. Those things, when we go and review the games, and last season they were talking about, I'm talking about the analysis of that game, that particular game, meant that it was below where we need, even though we won the game, it was below where we needed to be, because you can't sustain the points, especially going down to 10 men so early in a game like that. So it meant that was that case, but there were some games where I thought we'd done okay, which were higher level. So there's sort of a different correlation between what I'd seen and the outcomes and the sustainable outcomes. So you're looking at sustainable or sustainability of performance, and then hopefully we can pick those points up, and we will do when we get to that level. But yes, I'm happy with it's going in the right direction, that's for sure.
The rules, some of the rules have changed this season. Have you found any of those to Stoke's advantage? The throw-ins, the grappling at corners.
Not yet. No, I think it's early days, and those rules that come in tend to drift over 10 games. I'm sure that the biggest differences obviously have been where the goalkeeper's only got 8 seconds, and then you've got to throw the ball in within 5 seconds, and then you've got to get your subs off within 10 seconds. Those are the biggest differences, because it's all time based, and there's a punishment at the end of it, and those types of things. But I think generally the players are adhering to those rules pretty well.
And finally, from me, you've obviously, as I keep alluding to, been a player yourself. And when you've got somebody like Sorba Thomas, who played against a club that are supposedly interested in him the other night, his professionalism came through, didn't it?
Brilliant. But it's nothing less than I expect from him. He just showed that he's a top professional, and he's aligned with his role at Stoke City, and trying to get us through into the next round. And he went and played, and some of his game was a little bit, at the start of it, he was trying really hard. You could see he was trying really hard, and maybe not delivering the quality that he normally does, but then he delivered the quality for the goal, and then had some really good involvements, and he played the whole game as you'd expect. So yeah, but again, nothing short of what I expect and know of him.